I went to college at East Tennessee State over there in Johnson City, and Appalachian State, is basically about the same distance from where I was raised on the mountain. I always noticed that there in Boone, like the people that I met there through work and just doing whatever a college kid does, it seems like I noticed that they were much more liberal over there. Which, of course, you have your your lib shits in like East Tennessee. Of course, it's a college, but I noticed that it seemed like Boone was going the route that Asheville, North Carolina, has went. Yeah, go ahead. What was you going to say?
Oh, just yeah, you're spot on. And when you start doing the history of it and look at the Frankfurt School in Germany, when they got ran out of Germany in the 1930s, they came to Columbia University in New York. But before they went to Columbia University, a lot of them came to Asheville at Black Mountain College.
Okay.
And when Black Mountain College was finally shut down for being degenerate communists, you know, a lot of those people came to Boone. And a lot of them went to Asheville and destroyed Western Carolina there, but a lot of them infiltrated themselves into Boone. And it's always been, not always, but there you could definitely see in the 70s this big push to make this very conservative teachers college into this radical liberal college. And then after 9/11, it just really just to the max, where they basically infiltrated with about 200 of them with their ill-gotten gains, just bags of money, carpetbaggers with money, and just started buying up everything. They bought up the newspaper, the Watauga Democrat, the Adams family bought that, they're just long time propagandists. Cedric Adams, the voice of the Midwest, he got his start doing war propaganda to convince the Midwest that, we needed to go into World War II. Right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then his son, Stephen Adams, was Skull and Bones at Yale, right? And they bought up, the newspaper. Then they put in this, chancellor here. I call all the locals call her Jezebel, but Sherry Everts. And, she is just the epitome of the, militant lesbian, I hate everything to do with white men culture has to be destroyed. And the first thing she did when she got the position was emasculate the college. All the old white Christian local professors were fired or demoted and then replaced with all these, radical liberals, and homosexuals and everything else from out of state. And they suddenly declared that, Appalachian State University was no longer about providing qualified teachers for the public school systems of North Carolina, but now was the mandate to create global citizens. And, it's like, wow, that they actually put on their mission statement that they are there to be a, school to produce global citizens, and that they are all about diversity and inclusivity. And it has just been a horrifying textbook examination of the Kalergi plan, of how to destroy a high trust white Christian community with bringing in the third world, and the Cloward-Piven plan of we're going to just flood the area until all the resources start falling apart. That's all about stressing the resources so that the system will collapse, and then it can be replaced with a Soviet-style system. And so her mandate was, she was going to double the size of the college. Yeah. And if you've been to Boone, this was, around 2016, 2017 is when she, started making all of her changes.
See, I hadn't kept track of it. I remember back in 05, 06, and 07. That was when I started college. Mm-hmm. Those were the years, I believe, that App State won the division, the FCS. They won the national championship. brought a lot of publicity. You remember they beat Michigan that first game of the year.
That was the big push, that they were going to ramp up their athletics program to put them on the map.
Yes.
And and where did all of that money come from to say Appalachian needs this, high-ranking football team, and up to that point, Appalachian really didn't. They had teams, but it wasn't anything like, State of Carolina or Duke or anything. But suddenly it was just important that, they have this. And they destroyed half the town putting in, the big stadiums, etc. And one of the big scandals up here around 2008, 2009 was when they passed this big law that condemned all the old properties on the main road, the 421 highway into Boone, because ESPN's contracts, if they were going to cover your sports stuff, part of their contract is you had to have this many lanes of traffic in and out of the stadiums, right?
Wow. See, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, wow. It's like, okay, so we're sacrificing, the heritage, the history, all these old houses that had been here forever, just got in businesses. So many independent family businesses just got, condemned, will buy you out, and there's nothing you can do at, eminent domain. And to see half the town just get demolished and then put in a 4-lane highway, and then, strip malls on either side and, hotels.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now it looks like just any other town as you come into it. Now we've got all our goy slop, fast food places, etc. When originally you had all these incredible houses that still had the old spring houses. If you know what a spring house is, for keeping things cold, where you had all this natural springs coming off the hills all along there.
Hillbilly refrigerator.
Yeah, and all of those springs got tapped out and routed into the sewer lines. And, all those old historics, a lot of them were stone houses, from the rocks around here that were just, should have been preserved under historical, claims, but instead were completely destroyed so that App State could have their, champion sports ball team,
Yeah.
And again, first thing they did was stop recruiting white guys.
Yep.
And suddenly it was like every person on their athletic teams were these angry black guys, right?
Yep. That's something that I've noticed, I think, is what they've tried to do in the South as well, decades ago. It's like bring in college football, bring in all these blacks and all these, brings in all this money. That's kind of like a gateway. It's a way for them to, raise up that startup money for the changes they want to make. I wanted to go back a second. You mentioned earlier, what was it, Black Mountain College?
Right.
Yeah, well, let's hear about that place.
Oh, Black Mountain College was, that was all those radical commie Jews from the Frankfurt School went and set up a college, Black Mountain College, outside of Asheville, and were basically, in radical programming of, the communist Marxist method in the Appalachian Mountains to undermine, the old white Christian communities. And it was just completely radical. People like, Adorno and trying to think, one person that was there that, I still have respect for, of course, is Buckminster Fuller. And his work, he was part of it, but the majority of them were these, radical Jews that had got thrown out of Germany.
Yeah, and, that's interesting. That reminds me a bit of the Highlander Folk School that was
exact same thing,
same sort of principle.
Exactly, and of course that's where people like Mike King, otherwise known as Martin Luther King, and
Rosa Parks was trained there.
Rosa Parks, they were trained Marxists. But Theodore Dreyer was part of this. Let's see here, trying to get some of the big names.
Let's see. When did they shut down Black Mountain
Yeah,
College?
the FBI finally shut them down in '57, but they went from 1933 to
Oh, wow.
1957, and like I said, a lot of them, went back up to Columbia University.
Yeah.
They
Did I was going to ask, did Eleanor Roosevelt have any connections there? Because she was,
I'm sure at some
yeah,
point, either overt or covert.
yeah, she was connected. She visited and donated large sums to that Highlander folk school.
Mm-hmm.